Now that we have our document set up with the grid and guides, we can go ahead and actually start laying in content here. And the first thing we want to do is actually get our content in, mainly our typewritten content, so that we know what kind of space we're working with. Sometimes we're designated down to one page, a couple of pages, a few, and other times we can just take up as many as we like. So either way, we want to know what content we're working with and the kind of space that it's going to be using, and then also get some images in. That's also going to help us with the design itself, especially if we're new to this and doing a layout, even if you have a sketch maybe, doing a layout can be a little intimidating. So just getting some content in, getting an image placed in, all within the grids and guides is going to be really helpful. I've got my type here that I use to determine the baseline. So this is my preset typeface, type size, and leading. So I'm just going to move this to the side because I'm going to use it later for a little bit of reference. And I'm also going to turn off my baseline grid so I can start seeing things in a little more clearly again. And I'll have to go back at times and turn that on and off depending on what part I'm working on. I'm also going to turn off my gutter highlights just so I can really get a good glimpse of the grid I have developed here. There's a few ways that we can place our typewritten content in. If it's in a Word document, we can go in and copy and paste. We can even place that Word document in. We'll do that in a moment. One thing I want to do first is actually go to the Word document, and I want to check a couple things. When Word is used for an article or a manuscript, it's pretty common that the author or whoever is actually setting up the Word document hasn't used styles, proper Word styles and formatting to curate the document. Totally understandable and normal, but when we place it into Adobe, into InDesign, it doesn't pick up on a lot of the attributes and formatting that may have been done in Word just manually with Command I for italicization and Command B for bold and so on. So we want to make sure that we catch those. And this being a smaller article, that's pretty easy to do. We can see where the bolding is, where the italicization is, and really just make a note. Make a note for, as we design, going in and making sure that those have been italicized or bolded as necessary. Sometimes if it's a manuscript, there's certainly going to be a lot more of that, and we have to be a little more aware of where all of that is and take a few more steps in order to place it in and maintain all of that. But right now we're just going to see what this article has. So I'm going to go to the Edit menu in Word and down to Find and Advanced Find and Replace. And in that Advanced, you can see where it really does give us several options right off. But I'm going to keep all of those deselected. I'm going to go right down to Find and choose Format. And I'm looking for a font, an actual attribute or character that's been applied to the font. So I'll choose Font, and it'll take a moment to kind of load that in. And it'll open up a window where I can choose italicization from. So here I can see it's already been selected. And it's pretty common that I have to go in and look for this. So we can choose italic, we can find regular, bold, and you can see what it offers us. So we're just going to stick with italic. We're not going to designate any size, color, anything else. We're going to just maintain the only thing that's going to filter is for italicization. I'll say OK, and then find next. So it's found one there. I'll choose find next again. And that's all. So that's great. We only have one in here, and it was right here in this section. So I would make note of that, and then upon designing and laying out the article, I would be sure to go back in and make that single word italicized. Because when we paste or place this content into InDesign, we're going to lose that italicization. So I'll close this, and that's one of the easier things that we can do, but it's actually not my preferred route to copy and paste from Word, but I'm going to do it because there's something I want to show you. So I'll select all, Command A, Command C, and I'll go into InDesign, make a type frame. I'm just going to make it anywhere here, but I am going to stick within the columns, just best practice. And when I paste, we'll see that it gives me only the first line of the article. And we can see a very faint little red box there, and that's symbolizing that there's more. That's the overset text box. And that's symbolizing that there's more in here that we're not seeing. Well, it pasted in the first line essentially because if this article had other Word documents placed into it or pasted into it, styles may have come in and are affecting the way this pastes in. So we want to make sure that before we paste, we have that normal paragraph style selected. And this is the normal, and what this little box is reflecting is that this came in from Word. So I'm going to undo that paste, Command Z. I'll click on normal again, and now I'll paste, and it brings everything in. And it's brought it into a single type frame. So I can start formatting from that type frame. As it goes on to other pages, I can link it. So I can click on the overset box and make another type frame and link and so on. And we can lay out the article that way. That gets a little cumbersome, and of course we want to be sure that we're kind of working efficiently, but also bringing in everything all at once just to see what kind of space it's going to take up. So what I like to do is actually work with the file place and place a Word document in. There's one thing though that happens when we do this in a grid document that of course causes even additional headaches, and we'll see what that is. So I'll go to File and Place, and then I'll go to my article, and I can click and drag to paste that in just across the whole space, but we of course get some of the formatting, that's fine, and we also get the overset type. And we can also, I just undid Command Z there, we can also hold the Shift key down when we place, and you'll see when I hold the Shift key down by my cursor that it gives me that little down and up line, that wavy line. That means that it's going to paste the whole article in, and it's going to thread it. It's going to thread it through all of the pages. But because we've got our predetermined columns here, the actual columns worked into the document, what it's going to do is actually run along those columns, which is kind of a pain. So I'll do it. I'll hold Shift down and click. And we're not really seeing anything, but it's actually given me a whole bunch of type frames here. So there's a type frame there, and in that column, and so on. So the whole article has fallen into many type frames right across that page and down into this page, where the final type frame is actually on page 3. And if I open that all the way up, then I can see everything. So that causes a little bit of a headache because it's actually not very practical to do the threaded place into a columned grid like this, a columned document. So the way I would do that, I would likely just choose to do the place, go to File, Place. So I'll do that again, Command D or File, Place, and I'll choose my document, and I'll actually just make a type frame and get it started like that. I'm not choosing any specific page right now, and I'm not even falling really within the columns or anything. I'm just getting the content in. I have that overset box, but one of the reasons I did that was to really maintain the formatting and see what styles it brought in. If it had styles applied in Word, it would bring them in and it would put them into our paragraph styles in InDesign. And I want to actually check specifically to see if it carried over that italicization, which it looks like it probably did, so I want to be sure. So I'm just going to click on the overset type box here and draw another text frame on the next page and let it bleed over. I'm going to look in that section. So it was within this section somewhere that word not. And if I can't find it, I'm just going to do Command F, and I'll look for the word not. And there it is. I should have seen it, but I didn't. And we can see that it is properly italicized. So that's fine, that worked. But in this case, I'm actually going to select everything anyway. Command A when I'm clicked into the text frame. And I'm going to go back to basic paragraph because I know I only have one word to italicize. So maintaining all of the unnecessary formatting from Word just causes more of a headache. So I'm going to clean that out, go to basic paragraph, and it's going to reset everything. Now there is one thing that we have to be careful of with this, and that's that when we choose basic paragraph, what it's doing is removing the word applied space after from every paragraph. So you can see it kind of does make it look a little difficult to decipher where the paragraphs are. I'm just going to do Command semicolon and hide all of those grids and guides for a moment. So we can, for the most part, determine where the paragraphs are, but it's all come together. I prefer to work that way. And what I do is, of course, keep that Word document open so I can go back and refer to where the paragraph breaks are. Because I like to start fresh with a clean set of styles. So now in my paragraph styles, I would go to them, make sure, of course, that I'm not selected in the type box. So clicking off just into this space, go to my paragraph styles, hold Shift. I clicked on the first one, I'll hold Shift and click on the last, and I'll delete them all. Those all came in from Word. So I want to make sure they're gone. I want to start fresh with this, and it's just going to say, do you want to replace all of these with the basic paragraph? And I'm saying yes. It's affecting the content I brought in earlier, but that's okay. So there, I've removed all the styles. Now I can start styling this document fresh, and I don't have to worry about anything that came in from Word. One thing that you'll find when you do place in, however, into a document, from a Word document into Adobe, is that you can do that threading, and it is quite a nice feature. So I do want to show you on a blank document. So I'm just going to go over to this one. And this is a single page document, same size, and it just doesn't have any of the grids and guides applied to it that were hindering the way that threading worked when we placed it into our fully set up document. So I'm going to go to File, Place again, and I'll choose that document. I'm going to go up into the margins here and I'll hold Shift, and it'll give us that threading symbol. And when I click, you can see in the Pages panel, it just threaded through and it added all the pages. So this becomes a preference, really, when you're working with InDesign and you're bringing in documents. Your preference is what you're going to do first, essentially. You can always, of course, place the content in and then set up your grids and guides. It just depends really on how you want to work with the content in that regard. This is really handy when we're typesetting novels. When you have a full manuscript that's several hundred pages and you're, of course, not working with several columns. In a novel, you're working with really a single column on a page. So you can go to the manuscript, place it in, and it'll just add all of those pages to fit the entire manuscript. And that's really helpful in that regard. So for an article, it's more of a preference. In a novel, it's kind of the given. It's what we're going to do. So I'll go back to my article. I'm going to turn back on all of my grids and guides. So Command and semicolon again. And I want to bring an image into this now as well. But one thing I do want to make sure of is that even though I removed the styles, I remembered that this was Minion Pro 10/13. So I just want to see if it retained that. It did. So that's fine, and we'll see what it's doing over here. So it's 10/14.4. So I'm going to select all of this, just click in the box, Command A, and I'm going to set my type. I'm going to set it to my body copy. I don't have to do it manually. I can actually go here to the eyedropper, and of course you do have to, in InDesign, you have to preset this, which is annoying, because you can see it deselected my type when I went to it. And you want to make sure you're selecting the eyedropper and not the color theme tool. So I'll preset my eyedropper there. I'll go back to my type tool, click in my type, Command A. I'll go to my eyedropper and I'll click the body copy in my sample set there. And that will set everything. And then I'm even going to make sure that that's adhering to the baseline right now. So I'll just double click into it, Command A, go to my paragraph settings at the top, and it is all set to the baseline. So that's good. It can be a little challenging working with the baseline because we know once you start formatting, it starts making things a little awkward where you're trying to do different sizes and it's jumping to the baseline and so on. But remember, you can separate things if you're doing sidebars or you're putting content into a fully different graphic section of the page. You can take that off of baseline if you need to change the type size. But the baseline really is what we want our typewritten or our body copy formatted to. So this is currently on the baseline, and we'll leave it at that for now. And I'll still keep this aside just in case I change something and need to refer to it, and I'll make sure to remove it at the end. Now I want to place in an image, and when I place that image in, that image ideally is going to fall within the baseline adherence and the columns and rows.